Midnight train in Glenwood coming round the bend. Midnight train in Glenwood, I'll meet you there, my friend. Leaving Colorado, headed westward bound. On to California, second time around. Hey, sitting at the station waiting for a train, praying to God that it would rain. Get a rag, head the river rat rag. And the rest of my life coming back to me when it hit the road and I started to sing. Get a rag, hey, the river rat rag, it did too. Sitting in the hot spring, soaking my buns. Colorado River is too much fun. Get a rag, hey, the river rat rag. And my friend Randy, she's singing mighty fine. If you're lucky, you could catch her kicking down John Prine. Get a rag, hey, the river rat rag. Two of my favorites. My friend, and leaving Colorado, headed westward bound. Going to California, 14th time. Take it home. The river rat rag got the Glenwood train.
Hi, welcome to the Timmy Willis Show. You know, traveling musicians have razzled and dazzled audiences for centuries. And a good friend of mine, Mr. Randy Dose Williams, brought to my attention an extraordinary individual who is actually a ball of talent. You're in for a real treat. It brings me great pleasure to bring to you the one and only Mr. Martin Thomas. Hey, Martin.
Hello, Timmy Willis.
How you doing, man?
Doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, you know, that first song you did was slamming, man. I mean,
thank you.
Who wrote that song?
I wrote that with my friend Norman King, and it was actually inspired by a train whistle. We were sitting in the hot springs. It was late at night, and the train was coming along the track, and chugga, 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 and you're woo, woo! Yeah. And I thought, hey, 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 and that's what started it, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, you said that's what started it.
That's what started the song.
Right. Well, I'm saying, you said that's what started it. So I'm saying, what started it for you? Where were you born?
I was born in New Kensington, Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah? New Ken, huh?
Was born and raised there.
Yeah. What was it like for you growing up in New Kensington?
It was great. I enjoyed my childhood. I have 4 sisters and 2 brothers, so there were always people around. There was plenty of food. Mm-hmm. My mother cooks a ton, and I learned a lot from them. My mother really took care in exposing us to all different kinds of things, like the zoo, the aviary, the museums. She took us to classes in different things. It was
So she took time. She took the time to raise you. Then
she really did.
That's a beautiful thing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Well, as a child, what did you do for fun?
I used to run around in the woods and pretend I was Tarzan, and let's see. I was into sports a lot. I played a lot of sports. I liked to race people. I was fast.
Is that right?
Yes, I liked running, and music was always something that was in the background. But until I was about 15, it wasn't the primary thing in my life. But then I got injured playing sports. And I realized.
What kind of sports were you playing at the time?
Well, it was a pickup game of basketball.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I blew out a knee.
Oh.
So after a few more re-injury of that injury, then I realized that I had to focus on other things that were more long-lasting.
Yeah.
So that was when the music took the foreground and took the forefront of my attention, and I really started focusing on that.
Okay, now your lovely mother is here with you today.
She is.
And she told me that you also play piano.
I do.
Now, how did that come about, and what was it about the piano that caught your interest?
Well, probably the main thing that caught my interest is there was a piano in my basement.
Oh, really? It was already there.
It was already there. And I remember reaching up this high to play the piano notes. And so I was playing by ear at an early age. And I think that's probably why I was interested. My friend Billy Stevens played piano, and he played the Flight of the Bumblebee and the Minute Waltz in, I think, 48 seconds.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this now. I mean, there's other children that had pianos in their houses that didn't end up playing them. But you did. So I'm saying, what was it that made you, that grabbed you and moved you towards to want to play it? Was it the sound of it when you hit the keys, or?
No, I think it was one of the main things. I think I got bit by the bug when I was with my parents at Don Emberg's apple orchard farm. We used to go out there and make apple butter and apple cider, and while we were taking turns with the big canoe paddle stirring the apple butter, would play music.
Okay.
And I played the wash tub bass
you
with them, and I was a little kid. And
oh no, you remember how old you were? About before 5?
No, it wasn't before 5.
Okay.
But it was before junior high.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I got bit because we had such a good time, and Don Emberg was an extraordinary talent.
Yeah,
and, He taught me tuba, and then he said, well, now that you know tuba, you have to learn upright bass. So I learned the upright bass, and then he says, now you have to learn the electric bass. So I learned the electric bass, all because Don Emberg said, this is what you're supposed to do. So by the time I was 15, I had already learned the trombone, the tuba, the upright bass, and the electric bass.
Is that right?
right.
Now, in elementary school, did you play any instruments in elementary
I started out on trombone
school? In elementary
in
school.
elementary school.
Is
And then
that
when I
right?
got to 6th grade, the orchestra needed a tuba player. So he asked, who wants to play tuba? And I thought, I'll play tuba. So I raised my hand and he taught me.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I remember about Don was Mr. Ember, he could sing the notes that the tuba actually played. I mean, way down low notes.
Yeah.
And I was just so impressed with his vocal range, and he really had fun. And I think that's really how the bug got into me, was the amount of fun that I had playing. That's what when I
So from listening to you, it sounds like from going through these different instruments, it was relatively easy for you.
It was.
It was. Yeah.
Right.
Pretty natural.
Yes.
Yeah. Because like me, I mean, I look at a piano and I see all those keys and I'm like, I don't know which one to hit, which one not to hit, but it seems like this stuff came pretty naturally for you.
It did, but I think learning the piano is key because
No pun intended, right?
because you see the relationships that the notes have to each other. And once you understand in music that it's about the relationships between the notes, you can change keys, you can play in any key really because because of the relationships, basically.
Right.
And the keyboard establishes that in your mind because you see it all right in front of you. And you can see how they relate from one to the other. And I think that's really what got me from one instrument to the next,
Okay.
because I understand how it fit together.
Right. Now, you have another song prepared for us?
I have a lot of songs.
All right.
Yes, sir.
I told you it was in for a treat. Now, what's this next song you want to do for us?
Let's see. I'd like to do this next song. It's called Love in the Sky.
Okay.
And it was written when I was in Telluride about, I think 4 years ago I wrote this song. And after I finished this song, I said, well, I can die now, and I think people would know who I am just by this song.
Okay. Well, don't die now.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, it brings me great pleasure to bring to you Mr. Martin Thomas.
There's blood at my heels. I know just how it feels in the wake. A grudge or a guess, I judge a success or mistake. We all take a turn to brandish and burn what is dear. The lessons we learn, we answer from love or from fear. The traveling medicine show is coming to town, bringing two tyrants, two heroes, a sage and a clown. Nothing and something are suddenly one of the same. There's blood in the sky, but now I know just why I came. The songs that we pray, the prayers that we play and we live. The prize in our eyes the earth so abundantly gives. The sun and the earth cannot give us birth without pain. There's blood in the sky, and now I know just why I came. The traveling medicine show is coming to town, bringing two minstrels, two muses, a stage in the round. Nothing and something are suddenly one of the same. There's love in the sky, and now I know just why I came. What's inside my mind and outside are one of the same. There's love in the sky, and now I know just why I came.
For those of you just joining us, you're missing it. Get the kids out the backyard. Tell Grandma to come on in because we have an extraordinary guest with us today, Mr. Martin Thomas. Martin, that was a beautiful song you just did for us, man.
Thank you, Timmy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Now, you studied jazz harmony from a guy named Skip Bennett.
That's right.
Yeah. What is jazz harmony? I mean, what's that all about?
Well, jazz harmony is more, focuses more on the altered notes. Classical harmony tends to be the 1, 4, 5s and everything related to the 5 of something. Jazz harmony does as well, but instead of having like a 5/7 chord, it will be a 13 flat 9, or it might be a 7 sharp 9, or it might be an 11 chord. So when you hear people say that's a C13 or that's a G augmented 7, those are more jazz harmonies rather than a C chord or a B minor chord. Mm-hmm. So it's extensions, upper harmonies, upper structure harmonies, and more complex harmonies.
So what made you want to study jazz harmonies?
Well, the thing about it was I was already playing a lot of the jazz chords, and Skip said to me, he said, you know, if you take lessons with me, I'll show you what you're doing and I'll help you play in other keys. I'll show you how to use those same harmonies in other keys, because I was playing in A flat a lot and E flat a lot. It fits on the hand, in the hand really easily on the piano. And Skip said, you're playing a major 9 chord there, and you don't know it, but you are, and I can teach you the theory of that. So I studied with Skip, and I really learned a lot, and I still use the information I learned from Skip in my compositions, and when I play with more jazz musicians, or fusion musicians, I should say, because I don't really play straight ahead jazz. I play a type of a fusion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know up until this point, you've done a lot of studying up until this point in your life. Now, have you studied, taken it to the point of receiving a degree?
I have a degree in composition and theory from Ohio University.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Wow, man, that's pretty impressive. Well, what was that like for you? I mean, the whole schooling, university thing.
Well, it was different than the normal student, I think. I guess who could say what a normal student is? But I spent a lot of time in the practice room. I spent a lot of time writing stuff for dance troupes, for theater. There's a really strong radio and television school in Ohio University, and they called upon me to come up with bands to record in the studio. So we did commercials, 30-second commercials, 60-second commercials, and I was basically the guinea pig for the students studying radio and TV. So for 4 years I did that. I also was the director of the Miss Black Beauty pageant of Ohio University for the years I was there.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of inter-school. I worked a lot with other schools, not just with the School of Music. And I think that really helped me and opened my mind towards collaboration, which music is all about collaboration.
Right. Now, Ohio University, how did you, I mean, there's so many universities.
Right.
Why Ohio? How did you end up there?
You know, when I was in high school, people said, you have to have something to fall back on. And so I figured music therapy, that's a good thing to fall back on if I have to. And I went to Ohio University because they had an extraordinary program in music therapy. But after a year, I said, this is a psychology degree. This isn't a music, and I want to learn music composition. So I switched degrees from music therapy to music composition and theory.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Now, you moved to L.A.
I moved to L.A.
Yeah. What made you do that? I mean, what was it? I mean,
well, I figured if I had to sleep in my car, I'd rather sleep in L.A. than in New York.
Smart.
So that's why I went to LA. And during that time, you either had to go to New York, LA, or Nashville. And I figured out of all those, I'll go to LA.
Yeah.
And
Well, obviously, I mean, you didn't go to LA just because you know you could sleep in your car.
Well, no,
comfortably.
because I knew that I was going to pursue music,
Okay.
and that given those three choices,
Right.
if push came to shove, and I had to just keep hammering at it, even if I had to sleep in my car,
Right.
I'd rather do that in LA.
Right.
And which is funny because 6 years later, that's what I was doing. I was living out of my car, sleeping in the Angeles Crest National Forest, and working in LA and down in Hollywood during the day, and just go up and. I wasn't actually sleeping in the car. I'd drive out into the mountains and then roll out my bedroll, sleep, wake up in the morning, roll up my bedroll, put it in the car, and drive back into town.
So when you first got to LA, what was that like for you when you first landed in LA?
Oh, you know,
what was happening then?
I first got to LA and I answered this ad in the paper, and it was an ad for a room in a house. So I get to the house and there's this very dapper young-looking old man who answered the door, and he said, "Come on in." I went in, and there was a piano sitting by right when you get into through the hallway there. And I said, "Oh, do you play piano?" He says, "No, do you?" I said, "Yeah, I play piano." He says, "Play me something." So I sat down and I played there a song. He says, "Play me something else." I played another song and then another song, and then pretty soon there's a knock on the door. He says, "Well, why don't you go sit on the couch?" I get the door, and so it was somebody that wanted to see the room. So he takes them back and he shows them the room. And then he comes back out and sends them off and sits down and talks to me some more. Pretty soon there's another knock on the door. They go to see the room. They want to see the room. He shows them the room, sends them out. And I'm thinking, boy, I haven't even seen the room yet.
Yeah.
So he sits down and starts talking, and I don't want to be rude, and I don't have any place to go, so I talk to him some more. And pretty soon there's another knock on the door. And this time it's a beautiful woman and looking very sexy. And I thought, well, okay, she's looking for the room and she's going to get it. I'm beat by a better man, right? Well, it ends up, he shows her the room, he sends her out, and he says, "Well, you know, I really told the other people that they could have it, but why don't you call me in about 2 hours? Give me 2 hours and I'll give them a call and see if they can find something else." So I go down the road. I think I had about $300 on me at the time. And I'm watching the go-karts go around the go-kart track about 2 miles down the road. And I wait my 2 hours, and then I call him up, and he says, "You got it. You can have the room." So I go back to the house, and I open up the door, and he opens up this closet, and he's pulling down all these papers. And this man's maybe 100 pounds, very thin, very well-groomed. And I grabbed the papers because they're falling on him. I said, "What's this?" He says, "These are my big band charts. I was a big band leader in the 30s.
Oh, wow.
He had the Harlem Dictators, and they did that song, "It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I should be sleeping, but I'm dancing tonight with you." That was his band, and they launched Jimmy Lunciford and a whole mess of people. He was the band leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Wow.
Floyd Ray, Little Man, they called him.
Yeah.
And I lived with him for a year.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was cool.
that was a
man.
real good way to get into LA.
No. The Angeles Crest National Forest. How did you get there?
Well, it's just north of Los Angeles. It's not very far. It's about 20 minutes from Hollywood.
Really?
Yeah.
So you left the room, and then you ended up at.
Oh no, that was the first year.
Okay.
With Floyd, and then I moved in with another local musician from my hometown. Moved to LA, Matt Elias, and we lived in Studio City for 2 years in an apartment there.
Yeah. So while all this time, what were you doing musically during all this time?
I was performing some. I was doing a lot of studio work with people.
Okay.
Doing backup music for people.
Yeah.
And I started playing open mics towards the end. And I put together a directory of open mics around the Los Angeles area.
Yeah.
And I was selling these directories for $5 a piece. and a lot of people wanted them. So I was making pretty good money, actually, just selling those directories.
Now, what so people would know, what is this directory? I mean, what does it do for the people who want it? What does it do for them?
I wrote it up as a musician, especially as a keyboard player. So the front page were the days of the week, and then underneath you could see on Monday there were open mics or jam sessions at these places.
Yeah.
On Tuesday they were at these places. On Wednesday it was these, and then when you open up past the front page, it was all alphabetized, and it gave you the address, the cross streets. Is there a PA system? Is there a piano?
You did all that?
I did all that. And I also had what kind of music they liked. Was it a contest? Was it a jam session? Was it a showcase?
Yeah.
How much time you could have? Was it one song or was it 20 minutes? So all that information was underneath the title of the club. And we must have had almost 50 at one time. And I kept that up for about 3 years. And I ended up handing it off to a songwriting service group. And
that was real inventive.
Well, I figured if I needed that information or wanted that information, I figured other people wanted that information. So I put it together. Right. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Now look here. I want to get back to this Angeles Crest Forest. Now, you said that you had been, relocated there. You kind of like sleeping out in the forest, and then you were going into Hollywood during the day. So what was happening in Hollywood during the day? What were you doing there? What was your activities in Hollywood?
Well, there was a group called the National Academy of Songwriters who had a lot of flow of work, and I was spending a lot of time there, and I was spending a lot of time at the Musicians Union.
Oh, okay.
And so I was networking with people, I was fielding jobs, looking for opportunities for a young songwriter, composer, performer.
Yeah.
So that's
cool.
Yeah.
And then something happened.
Right.
You met a guy named Norman King, and man, the accelerator got pushed down. And we're going to talk about Norman King. So, but before we do, would you give us another song?
Sure.
What you have for us?
Let me think.
Or you want to surprise us?
I'll surprise you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, Mr. Martin Thomas.
Come carry me a Perrier, come carry me away. Come carry me a Perrier, still I cry when I say goodbye. Still I cry when I say goodbye. Hey, I'm on my way today. Hey, I'm on my way, I came to love, I came to play. Sitting at the foot of the medicine tree, letting go of me. The phoenix fire is in the sky. I may learn what I will to die. May I learn what I will to die. Come carry me a Perrier, come carry me away. Come carry me a Perrier, still I cry when I say goodbye. Still I cry when I say goodbye. Hey, I'm on my way, I'm on my way today. Hey, I'm on my way, I came to love, I came to play. I don't like to kill, but I like the meat. Come carry me away. It keeps me with the attitude that when I die, I want to be good food. When I die, I want to be good food. So come carry me a Perrier, come carry me away. Come carry me a Perrier, still I cry when I say goodbye. Hey, I'm on my
Yeah, we're here with multi-talented Mr. Martin Thomas, also known as Martin the Troubadour, which he's going to tell us about a little later on. But Martin, that song you just performed, could you tell us about that?
That song was inspired by the concept of, in order for me to learn, part of me has to die. The part of me that knew what I knew before, I have to be willing to let go of in order to learn the next stage that I need to understand. And for me, that's a kind of traveling, so I call that a traveling song. Mm-hmm. And it's calling in the Thunderbird, which is épervier in French. It's the Thunderbird asking it to come in and eat me, basically, pick me up and eat me and take me to the next stage of life. It's kind of like molting, losing your skin, or being in a chrysalis and turning into a butterfly. That's what that song's about. Yeah. And that song came about the time that we're talking about living in the forests.
Right, right.
And that's when that song came about.
Oh, okay, cool. Because, you know, well, at least in my neighborhood, when I was growing up, Thunderbird was something else, man.
Right.
Yeah, we'd pitch it and get a bottle of that stuff, man.
Well, I was studying the Native American folklore at the time, and so that's why.
Is that right?
Right, that's why I was.
Cool. Man.
It was on the front of my mind.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
But you know, people probably sitting out there and they probably saying, man, this guy, man, is so talented, man. I would like to talk to him, man. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, my email is martinthomas59@hotmail.com. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
martinthomas59@hotmail.com.
Yeah. Could they pick up the phone and give you a call?
Sure. Can I give them my number?
Sure.
724-335-0624.
Yeah.
It's, my mother's out there in the studio. She's probably waving. No, hang on. I live with my mother.
Oops.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, now we talked about, we mentioned the name Norman King.
Right.
Now, let's talk about Norman King, because you traveled with him for about 3.5 years, correct?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, what was that all like for you?
Well, I have to back up to my friend Lisa Miles, who I met in Los Angeles working at the law firms. I worked in law firms for a little bit. And she was a musician when she was young, and she stopped to pursue a real job. And then when I met her, she said, oh, I can do this too. I can get into this music as well. So I was helping her do a CD. And she met this guy, Norman, at a Rainbow Gathering and brought him to show me. And Norman was playing her guitar, one of her guitars, and his was leaning against a tree. And Norman was this Choctaw, Cherokee, German, and Irish man who is kind of a crazy, wild man who was very inventive, could create stuff out of just about anything. And Norman was playing her guitar, and I picked up his guitar. I said, what chord is that, Norman? And I just started playing it. He says, there's another one like that. I played that. He says, there's one more like that. And I played it. And he says, now you can do about half the songs I know.
With those three chords.
With those three chords, yeah. G, C, and D.
Okay.
And I went from playing, like I said, the flat 9, 13 chords to playing G, C, and D, or A and E, or 2 and 3 chord songs.
So now, where was this again that you actually met Norman? I mean, what part of the country was this again?
This was Los Angeles, the Angeles Crest National Forest.
In the National Forest there.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's an exciting place, man.
It is, yes.
Now, you also headlined the Hollywood Street Festival
That's right.
in 1990.
When I was doing all the work at the National Academy of Songwriters, one of the things that came in was they were having this street festival in Hollywood in 1992, and Norman and I we showed up, I think it was 2 hours before the deadline, and we played one song, and they said, you're just what we've been looking for. Yay, you showed up finally. So
is that right?
They were concerned that they weren't going to find what they wanted, but they found what they wanted 2 hours before the deadline.
So
and we were the headline band.
Wow.
Coyote was our name, Coyote. So
Coyote.
We had real tight harmonies and tight vocals.
Yeah. Now, who came up with the name?
Norman. That was his medicine. He's Native American, like I said, raised as a cotton picker. They followed the cotton crop when he was a kid. He got an an adult wage at the age of 9, but he studied the Native American folklore as he was growing up.
Yeah.
And so he showed a lot of that to me.
So where's Norman now, you know?
Norman passed away.
Oh, did he?
But I have a surprise for you. I was sitting there crying about Norman, and he came to me in a vision, and he said, I'm going back where I came from. And a song was in my head. So I feel like Norman gave me a song from on the other side of that veil.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, will
I'll
you
play
be,
that. I'll
will you
finish
be
up with that
performing
song.
that? Oh,
At
you
the
will
end.
be
That'll be the
performing that
last
for us?
song I'll play.
Okay, we're looking forward to that. We're really looking forward to that one. Now, after 3 months, Norman wanted to leave the area.
Right. He was tired of
Why?
the inner city. He wasn't
Really?
a city guy, really.
No.
He was more in, he liked finding hot springs and vapor caves, and he was real good at that.
No, when you say hot springs, that means like actually just what
coming
it is?
out of the ground,
Yeah,
and it's hot water.
really.
Yeah. Sometimes too hot. Sometimes you have to add cold water so you can get into it. Or you make the pool bigger so it has time to cool before you can get in it.
Is that right?
They're all over the West.
That's exciting, man.
Yeah.
Now, you guys also helped a lot of people.
We did. That was his medicine. We played music, but at the same time, if people needed help, we did what we could to help them. And we did a lot of that, and it was, I feel like I learned the art of music to that point, and then Norman helped me learn the art of life. So music was then a vehicle for living the life of service, basically, helping people. But then we played on the streets, and we had crowds of people a lot of the time. And a lot of the time, it was the downtrodden. And we used to say, the rich man doesn't need our inspiration. They have the money to keep them inspired, but the poor people need our inspiration. Those are the people, those are our strongest supporters and followers. And
And you was there for them.
we were there for them.
Now, you also went through Central America and Mexico, correct?
I did, yes.
Wow, what was that like, man?
That was an eye-opener. I didn't think, had I known what was in store for us, I probably wouldn't have gone, but a little naivete goes a long way.
Oh, really? So it wasn't enjoyable?
It was enjoyable, but it was really challenging, and being in Central America, as an American, as someone from USA, as they say, many people think that you're rich, so they try to take advantage of you, and they expect you to pay them for things that don't even happen.
Yeah, you shake a guy's hand, he wants to get paid for it.
Right. Or there's a lot of thievery.
Yeah.
And we got robbed.
See, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
How did they treat you? So
They treated me very well.
Yeah.
And I didn't get robbed like at gunpoint, although I was at gunpoint several times. They didn't rob me when I was at gunpoint, but they robbed me when I was away from the truck. I was traveling with my friend Randy Kelly, and we got down to Costa Rica, and we went in the ocean. Maybe 20 minutes. We got back, and the truck was emptied out. So her credit cards, her ID, any money that she had was gone. And I just had a bag of rocks that I make jewelry out of, and that was gone. And so we had to live by playing music. We were doing that anyway, but now it was on for real.
So when did Randy Kelly come into the picture?
Randy had a coffee shop called The Raven Coffee Shop. And when Norman and I were traveling, one of the places we went was Glenwood Springs, Colorado. And people were saying, you need to go see Randy at The Raven. And we heard that 3 times, and then we said, okay, we need to go see Randy at The Raven. So we found her, and she had this voice like Norman. Both of them had voices. Randy still has a voice that I think would stop a train. Just when I hear it, it's just so honest and so expressive. It makes me stop. It makes me pause and really want to pay attention. And so the 3 of us played a lot, and then Randy had a sabbatical, and she said she wanted to go through Central America, and she was going to fly, and I said, well, why don't we just take your truck? We'll drive down there and have bigger adventure, more of an adventure. And so we did. And Mexico was great, although we did get, like I said, stopped at gunpoint a few times. And you just play the music and you get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds exciting, man. I know you mentioned the words expressive and all this, and talking about Randy Kelly's voice, but yours is the same way, and I really enjoy hearing you so much that. Can you give us another song?
I will gladly give you another song. Now, this song I'd like to do is the first song I learned on guitar.
Oh, really?
And it's one of Norman's songs, and he wrote it about a gypsy woman, Lily Swan.
Lily Swan.
Lily Swan.
Oh, okay.
And after Norman showed me those 3 chords, he started into this song, and that was the first song I learned and played, and it's a special song for me. Whenever I feel bad, that's the song that I use to kind of reconnect me with my core.
Okay. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, get ready. Mr. Martin Thomas, a.k.a. Martin the Troubadour.
One lie, la la lie, lie lie, la la lie, lie lie, lie lie, lie lie, lie lie, la lie, lie lie, lie lie, and I've loved you forever, Lily Swan. Well, oh, Lily Swan, first you're here, then you're gone, and I know I can't hold you very long, and I wouldn't even try. Lily Swans have to fly, and I love you like you are, Lily Swan. And oh, Lily Swan, you really turned me on. Then you told me to put it in my song. Now I sing this song for you, and I'll pray that it's true. I'll never tie you down, Lily Swan. And lie, 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 and I've loved you forever, Lily Swan. I want you to understand that I've always been your man, held your love with open hands, and I've loved you forever, Lily Swan. And lie, 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 lie. And I've loved you forever, Lily Swan. Yes, I've loved you forever, Lily Swan.
Hey, for you just joining us, you are missing it. We're here with the extraordinary Mr. Martin Thomas, who's also known as Martin the Troubadour. Hey, Martin, what is a troubadour?
A troubadour started out back in the Middle Ages, before there was newspaper, before there were obviously television and radio. They were traveling troops of entertainers, musicians, jugglers, actors, who would tell stories about where they've been, stories of acts of compassion, stories of love, basically telling the news of what was going on in the neighboring villages or neighboring kingdoms. And they were the newspapers of the day, but they did it in song and stories.
Yeah, well, how did you learn about troubadours?
Well, I think I first learned about troubadours through my high school choir teacher, Carolyn Bruno, first spoke about it in talking about Daniel Emmett and Stephen Foster, a local composer. We used to sing some of the some madrigals and some troubadour songs back then, and that's when I first learned about it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Now you brought a couple clips for us today.
I did. One of the aspects about troubadouring that I really like is when I'm playing on the street, people come up and they bring their instruments, or they go get their instruments when they see I'm up there, and they bring them back, and we play together in the streets, and you never know who's going to show up. Mm-hmm. People dance along, and so the first clip was this man Rico Rick, who showed up with his harmonica, and there were a bunch of other people standing around and yelling, mm-hmm. obviously, but this is Rico Rick jumped in on the harmonica and started playing with us. So.
Okay, so yeah. here's Martin the Troubadour along with Rico Rick. Here we come.
I was walking down the road with my friend Norman, and he says to me, "You know, I'm not here for a long time or a hard time. I'm just here for a short time and a good time."
And a good time.
Whoa, that sounds like a song. So I wrote this song.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not here for a long time. So hey, we're not here for a hard time. I said, hey, we're just here for a short time. Which leads me to believe that we're here for a good time.
Yeah.
Well, some people can't think of nothing to sing but a sad song. And it don't bother me much, but I won't listen too long. 'Cause life's too short to be sitting here singing about crying too long. And it breaks my stride, made me question my reason for trying. Chorus, ready? I said, hey, we're not here for a long time. So hey, we're not here for a hard time. I said, hey, we're just here for a short time. Which leads me to believe that we're here for a good time. Oh, Rico, my time. Playing guitar and the harp with some good friends, watching the sunset and the moonrise. Well, Coyote's got something cooking tonight, that's a good bet. Yeah. Rocking around with the rubber tramp, sniffing out hot springs.
Oh yeah.
They call the pleasure police, they can't get no relief from the good things. Hey, we're not here for a long time. So hey, we're not here for a hard time. I said, hey, we're just here for a short time. Which leads me to believe that we're here for a good time.
Good time. Good time.
Hey, we're not here for a long time. So hey, we're not here for a hard time. I said, hey, we're just here for a short time. Which leads me to believe that we're here for a good time.
Good time.
Said it leads me to believe that we're here for a good time. That was a figment of my imaginary nation. That was a fig Newton of my imaginary nation.
Beverly Hillbillies.
Hey man, you look like you was having so much fun with them guys. man.
Yes, we were having
That
fun.
was
yes.
good. Now you brought another clip for us.
I did. This is Fiddle Willie showed up with his guitar. Fiddle Willie was the little 9-year-old guy that played with Porter Wagner. You see the big glasses?
Okay.
Fiddle Willie plays anything with wires, as he says.
Okay.
So he's playing guitar, we're singing and playing guitars together, and that's another one to tell you rides.
All right.
Special nights there.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for Martin the Troubadour with Fiddle Willie.
Said T-Bo, Texas, T-Bo, Tennessee, Tennessee. Well, T-Bo, Texas, T-Bo, Tennessee. Well, T-Bo, Belmont, that woman made an asshole out of me. If you don't like me, mama, sure gonna have to starve, gonna have to starve. Well, if you don't like me, mama, you sure don't have to starve. Well, I can catch me more women than a passenger train can haul. You know the women's make a fool out of me. If you don't like my peaches, please don't shake my tree. Oh no. If you don't like the peaches, baby, don't shake my tree. Stay out of my orchard, let my peaches be. Well, the women's make a fool out of me. Well, I bought myself a shotgun and a long blue steel barrel. Oh Lord. Well, I bought myself a shotgun with a long blue steel barrel. I shot that rounder that was traveling with my gal. Well, the women's make a fool out of me. Don't watch me, will you? Well, T-Bo, Texas, T-Bo, Tennessee. Well, T-Bo, Texas, T-Bo, Tennessee. Well, T-Bo, that woman made an asshole out of me. You roll-a-lady-o, to Jimmy Rogers.
Hey Martin, you know, you just one big ball of talent, man. It's been a real blast being here with you today, man.
Thank you, Timmy. I really enjoyed it too.
Yeah. Well, look here. When did you come back to Pittsburgh? When
About
you
2.5 years ago.
About 2.5 years, sir?
That's right.
Well, I also recognize the fact that you are a producer as well.
That's right. I have a studio, an audio video studio I run.
Audio and video studio.
Operate.
Well, before we go any further, I'd like to thank your beautiful, precious mom, Miss Mary, for joining us today.
Yeah, I'd like to
You know
thank her
what I mean?
too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you,
serious.
Mom.
I see where you get your good heart, man, and everything, because she's a beautiful person.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miss Mary. Now, look here. When you look back on all of it now, any most memorable moment?
Singing for the Pope maybe was an interesting moment in Los Angeles. Playing the Hollywood Street Festival was a great moment. Had lots of great moments.
Yeah.
it's been really, really a good life. Happy to have the opportunity to live it.
Right. Now, for anyone who wants to talk to you, and I know there's probably plenty of people out there say, "Man, I like to talk to this guy, man. You got so many experiences." How can people get in touch with you again?
martinthomas59@hotmail.com is my email address. My phone number is 724-335-0624.
All right. Now, you got one more song you're going to
I've got one more song. This is the song that I spoke about. When Norman passed away, I was sitting there crying about it, and he came to me in a vision, and he said, "I'm going back where I came from." And this song was in my head. So I wrote it down really fast before I could forget it. And,
okay. And what's the name of the song?
Going Back Where I Came From.
Going Back Where I Came From. Ladies and gentlemen, Martin Thomas, a.k.a. Martin the Troubadour.
I'm going back where I come from. Going back to the place where the people know my face. I'm going back where I come from. I'm going back where I come from. Going back to see my mom, tell her everything I saw. I'm going back where I come from. I'm going back where I come from. You're looking lonesome and sad. Now you know what you have had. I'm going back where I come from. I'm going back where I come from. I don't need money, gas, or feed. I got everything I need. I'm going back where I come from. I'm going back where I come from. Until all the children learn, if I can, I will return. I'm going back where I come from. I'm going back where I come from. While my road dogs all play, I'm heading out this holy day. I'm going back where I come from. I'm gonna go see Sister Rosemary.